everybody. I hope your day's going well.
We are excited about this weather classroom talk, and we are talking about the 4 seasons.
Yeah. Yeah, something that you get all around the world. You know, some of the things we talk about that, like the thunderstorms and everything, doesn't necessarily happen everywhere around the world, but I mean, the 4 seasons, it doesn't matter where you are. Everybody on the planet has the 4 seasons.
And you know, Weather Chief Bill Taylor, he was talking about highs versus lows yesterday, and I also mentioned how they're different from the northern and southern hemispheres on our planet Earth. And the same goes for the 4 seasons. They're different when you're crossing over the equator.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking all about it. It has actually a lot to do with the Earth's tilt. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be using some big words like equinox and solstice. We're going to be telling you about all those things. So make sure you've got a pen and paper because we'd love for you all to take notes on this as we go along.
Jennifer says, I'm here. I'm Shelby, 3rd grade. Hey, Shelby.
Hey, Shelby. Hope
Happy you're here.
Well.
Yeah, if you guys have any comments or questions, make sure to comment on YouTube and also Facebook. I know we're across multiple platforms right now.
Yeah, and before we even get started, you know, I'd love to hear how much y'all may know about this already. Tell me the name of the 4 seasons. Go ahead and add those in the comments. We'd love to hear what y'all have to say. Megan, we're going to go ahead and name 2 of the seasons. What's your favorite season?
Fall. By far fall. And then winter is next.
Oh, you named 2 of them. So there's 2 of them right there, fall and winter. My favorite is summer.
So complete opposite side of the spectrum. I just like the cooler weather, like 70-degree temps. I love when the leaves start to change. I love fairs. You know, going to the State Fair of Texas, that always reminds me of fall. I love fall food like pumpkin pie, pecan pie, you name it.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I like to go out to the river and to the lakes and be in the sunshine. And so there's different things that we can associate with different seasons. So you ready to jump into some of the things that we are talking about today?
Yeah, let's look at some of these comments too. Rick and Paula watching and learning. Hey, Rick and Paula, nice to have you guys here. Hi, I'm Kara in kindergarten. Ooh, kindergarten, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a fun year.
That's a very fun year. Yeah, I always loved getting the backpack. That was like my favorite part in kindergarten. I remember that, spring, winter, fall, and summer, Ansley, way to go. Yeah, we have so many comments
Matthew,
here.
Yeah, a lot of great answers. Great job, guys. Yeah, that's exactly, and we're going to talk about why we even have seasons in the first place.
Yeah, so I know Luke Steelman says my favorite season is winter. That's my 2nd favorite season. Love that.
Yeah, and you know, we mentioned our favorite seasons. Tell us your favorite seasons in the comments. We'd love to hear. And tell us why, too. Why a certain season is your favorite. Megan mentioned that she loves fall. I know that you love Halloween.
Yes, Halloween.
Fall.
Yeah,
and
I do.
And then also she's a big fan of Christmas. So there's the winter.
Fall and winter go hand in hand there. All right, so let's get right into the lesson. So what causes the seasons? You may be thinking temperatures. Well, in a way, yeah, but it actually has to do with the Earth's tilt, which the Earth is tilted 23.5 degrees. So it's not, you know, north to south. Our Earth is a little bit tilted on its axis.
Yeah, so think of it like a, I guess like a, trying to think of this the right way. A basketball. Let's say you have a basketball with lettering on it. Instead of it being just like this, where you see the letters straight across, imagine it being tilted a little bit. That's exactly how the Earth is, slightly tilted.
And I don't know if Bill Taylor's going to have a quiz, so you may want to write down 23.5.
Yeah, remember that. 23.5 degrees. 23.5. That's going to come up a lot.
So the reason why we have all 4 seasons is because of the Earth's tilt on its axis, which is 23.5. We're going to go ahead and start with the summer season because the winter, or the summer solstice, I should say, is going to be the next solstice, and it's expected to occur on June 20th, 2020, just before 5 p.m. in the evening. So, Andrew, do you want to take it away since this is your favorite season?
Yeah, I will. You know, summer is when the northern hemisphere, summer in the northern hemisphere means that it's actually winter in the southern hemisphere. So while we're getting summer in North Texas, or in South Texas rather, in places like Australia, they're actually having winter. And it's
Exactly.
because they're tilted a little bit away.
So it goes back to the differences between the northern and the southern hemisphere. So their summer solstice is when the sun shines directly over the northern hemisphere. And, we have more daylight in the summertime. Right now we're starting to see our sun rises a little bit earlier and our sun sets a little bit later. So the more daylight, the more sunshine, the warmer it's going to be. So now that we're in mid-spring season, we start getting into the summer season after the summer solstice on June 20th at 4:43 p.m., I believe, Central Time. That's when it's going to start getting warmer because hence we have more sunshine.
Yeah, and something important to note, this is a little bit beyond what we're even talking about here, but that sun, remember, every single time that sun comes up, that is the source of warmth here on our planet. So
Yes.
when that sun comes up over the horizon, as the Earth turns, the sun heats the Earth, and that heats the atmosphere.
Right.
So whenever the sun heats the Earth, this is a big word again, for some of our younger ones at home, radiates. The Earth radiates. In other words, it's putting off heat. It's kind of like if, let's say your parents just cooked you dinner, lunch or dinner, and you hold your hand just off of the food while the food's still hot. And you hold your hand just off the food. You'll feel the heat coming off of the food. That's kind of like what we're experiencing here. So the sun heats the Earth, and then we're just off of the Earth, and so we're feeling that heat.
Yeah, from
get
the
what I'm
ground.
saying?
From the ground, feeling the heat
Yeah.
from the ground. So first things first, the sun or the Earth's tilt is what causes our 4 seasons. And you'll notice that the sun, how it shines directly over the northern hemisphere, we have that Earth kind of angled a little bit. So we're getting kind of the bulk of the sun's rays here.
Yeah.
Hence summertime.
Oh,
So-
here's Megan's favorite.
I know. Here's fall equinox. I'm going to take it away. So again, the sun shines directly on the equator. So equinox and solstice are different. Equinox means equal days and equal nights. So it's going to be pretty close, about 12 hours length of day. So we have fall in the northern hemisphere and spring in the southern hemisphere. So the sun is shining directly on the equator. Do we have any comments or questions?
Yeah, here's a good one. How do seasons affect living things from Paisley? So it can affect living things in all sorts of different ways. Like, for instance, in spring and summer, we have flowers that bloom. A lot of animals come out from hibernating in the winter. That's
And
another
bugs.
thing. And bugs.
Bugs are out in the springtime.
And so when we get more sunlight, remember, this is all about having more sunlight. It makes everything be warmer.
Right.
So with warmer conditions, we end up seeing more flowers, and we end up seeing more wildlife out as animals that do hibernate end up coming out from hibernation.
So this is an interesting point. Let's talk about the oak pollen, because typically our wettest seasons are from fall, winter into spring. And so we've noticed, we even had a Facebook Live this morning, and we talked about how green it looked near Calaveras Lake. So with those healthier trees, and sometimes you get those storm systems to move through, the wind is going to shake the pollen off those healthy trees, hence why oak is so heavy right now on our allergy reports.
Yeah, and a lot of us are dealing with sneezing and running noses. Yeah, I know that a lot of people are dealing with it. I've been dealing with it a little bit myself even. So,
So any more questions? Ned in first grade is watching. Hey Ned, glad you're here.
Jennifer says, I like the cool weather and baby animals are born spring and summer. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the spring and summer months as well. Spring,
Right.
not as much, just because the allergens usually get to me a bit, but summer, I just love it.
Makes sense. And then I know Vera also earlier sunrises due to daylight savings time, right? Saving time. Yes, that is correct. And we typically have daylight saving time during when we go from, let's say, winter into spring. So it's because of the Earth's orbit around the sun. That's why we do have to have the changes on our clocks.
Yeah, and the thing is, even if we didn't have the clocks change, we would still have that extended amount of daylight. That's the big thing. Like, we have longer periods of daylight because, and that all has to do with the Earth's orbit and the tilt of the Earth.
And it's not a perfect circle. The orbit is not a perfect circle.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an oval shape. So you're going to be closer to the sun and then farther away from the sun. So that has to do with daylight. So going back to it, fall equinox. So we have fall in the northern hemisphere. This is when the sun shines directly over the equator. So from fall, can you guess where we're going to go next? Winter.
Yeah, and winter is meteorologist Meagan Massey's second favorite month, I would say, but it's a close second, guys.
Yeah.
That's going to be when the sun is shining directly over the southern hemisphere. So that would lead us to not have as much sunlight during each day. Our days are shorter, not necessarily by the 24 hours that we usually have. It just means our days we have less daylight throughout the day.
Yeah, so we have winter in the northern hemisphere and summer in the southern hemisphere. And the winter solstice occurs when the sun shines directly over the southern hemisphere. So this is the complete opposite to the summer solstice in June. This is the complete opposite. You know, kind of going back to it, you have the sun shining directly over the northern hemisphere, which is where we live. That's north of the equator in the summertime, but complete opposite in the winter. So you have the sun shining directly over the southern hemisphere, which is below the equator.
Yeah, and here's the deal. The sun angle, the point at which the sun is hitting the Earth is at 23.5 degrees. So it'll be at 23.5 degrees south of the equator when it's ever the winter winter solstice, and when it's the summer solstice, it will be at 23.5 degrees north of the equator. So that's where the sunlight would be directly overhead. And during an equinox, the sun is directly over the equator itself, that middle portion of the Earth, and that causes for equal amounts of days across the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
equal sunlight, rather.
yes, and so we have an equinox twice a year and a solstice twice a year. So we have a solstice in June and December. Now, one thing I want to point out, remember the tilt of the Earth causes the four seasons. So notice how here's the U.S. You can kind of see it on the graphic there in the larger frame. Notice how the Earth is kind of at an angle. It's tilted at 23.5. Well, notice how right here there's the equator and we have the sun's rays shining directly over the southern part. So Andrew's drawing kind of the reference there. Nice drawing, by the way.
Yeah, it's not, that
nice
may
drawing.
not be exactly where the equator is, but that'll be close to it.
It's in the ballpark, yeah.
Yeah. So that shows that the sun's rays are hitting that southern portion of the Earth.
There you go. And so that's the winter solstice.
Yeah, and then actually, do you want to bump it back a little bit? Maybe we can show the equinox a little bit more. Fall equinox, well, that kind of has the sun in front of it.
So we're actually going to have the equinox after the winter solstice. So go
right.
ahead and advance the graphic again.
That's right. We have two equinoxes every year, just like we have two solstices.
Right. So this is the spring equinox, and the spring is happening in the northern hemisphere, and then we have the fall, the complete opposite season in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, and this is going to be whenever we have the sunlight just kind of equal across the world, and that's going to cause it to, it'll be shining directly over the equator. The sun will be directly over the equator, so whenever it comes up and at sunrise and sunset.
Let's see if we have any other comments here. How come sometimes it is cloudy? Ansley wants to know. It just has to do with weather at this point. Not so much astronomy, but more of weather systems that come through, cold fronts, warm fronts, the dry line. The dry line's a big one here in the state of Texas, you know, and I'm sure we're going to lay out all the different types of fronts. So you definitely want to tune in for that one, and we'll talk about that question more in depth. But great question.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about when it's cloudy with low pressure systems just yesterday. Whenever you have a high pressure system, we're talking about sinking air. So when you look up at a cloud, you see it growing and getting bigger sometimes. That's going to be because air is actually coming up and rising, and it's causing the moisture in the air that we can't necessarily see to cool and condense and to form clouds. So that rising air. But if we have high pressure, much like what we have today, we still have a few clouds out there, but if we have high pressure, we're talking sinking air. So you would need the rising air to have the clouds form and grow, but when we have sinking air, we end up seeing less clouds and more blue sky. I hope that answers your question, though.
And good point, too, is spring is one of our rainiest and stormiest times of the year, so I'm glad you brought that up. And it was a great question of talking about why is it cloudy sometimes. We typically see it during the spring season, so great question there. I know I saw one. Reagan from 3rd grade and Tanner in pre-K are watching your online class. Thanks for doing this. Hey, you're welcome. I'm glad you guys could join us today.
Yeah, and I see Luke says, are we going to see tornadoes this year?
We typically see it March through May.
Yeah, if
in
we
South
do,
Texas.
that would be the time of year that we see it. That's our, we like to say, severe weather season. That's why we talk about early March. We typically say, go over your family's severe weather action plan. We talked a little bit about that last week.
And the good news is if you've missed last week's episodes and even yesterday talking about the difference between high pressure versus low pressure with Bill Taylor, you can always go back and watch those today if you want. I know we have a lot of rain in the forecast late week into this weekend, so it'd be a great time to just stay inside and catch up on those videos if you happen to miss them.
And you may want to ask your parents to see if they can click back through the Ken's 5 Facebook page. We also now have coloring pages if you wanted to do some coloring today.
Hey Karen, she says great teaching video. Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah. Let me see.
We're looking at some of
Georgia
these comments
are
here.
watching and love Bill Taylor. Logan says hello. That would be
Hey,
my
Logan.
nephew. Hey Logan, I hope you're doing great, bud. I heard that you had a little tumble the other day. I hope you're doing fine. Are we getting any more rain this week? Oh, but yes, the answer is yes. We actually have a good amount of rain expected by the end of the week and into the weekend, which should help things bloom even more. And really, again, spring is our more wetter time of the year, I guess you could say. And we are expecting more rain for the end of this week and into the weekend.
And you know what? Let's go ahead and talk about the dates of each of these seasons. You know, when is it going to start for us in San Antonio? So it's the spring season now, but when do we hit summer? Well, we have the summer solstice on June 20th, 2020. That's this year, and it's going to occur right around 4:43 p.m., and that's Central Time.
Yeah, and what's that magic number that the sun will be shining at on the summer solstice? Remember that number that we keep saying? I'm going to give you all a chance. We're going to talk about some other things, and then we'll see what y'all answer. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have the fall equinox, which here comes my favorite season, September 22nd. And then here comes the winter season, that's December 21st. And then we have the spring equinox next year, right around March 20th, 2021.
Yeah. And I don't see any answers coming in yet. Remember, the answer is 23.5 degrees. Whenever we're talking north of the equator, that's the summer solstice. That's for us, whenever we have the warmer conditions. And then the winter solstice is 23.5 degrees south of the equator. That's when the sun is shining directly over 23.5 degrees. And remember, when it's shining directly over the equator, that's the equinox, spring equinox, fall equinox.
We have Aiden and Evany from Royal Ridge Elementary say thank you for the video. Hey, you guys, you're welcome. Glad you guys could tune in today, too. I know we have a lot of comments on YouTube. We'll have to go back and look through those as well. He loves weather topics with Kins every day. Aw, yay. Awesome. Yeah, we love these topics, and we have many more topics to talk about going through the next couple of days. So the 4 seasons, remember that the Earth's tilt on its axis at 23.5 degrees is the reason for the seasons. We also have the Earth orbiting around the sun. Remember that the orbit is not a perfect circle. It's kind of like an oval shape. So at times, twice a year, you're going to be farther away from the sun, and then, 2 times a year, you're going to be closer to the sun. So that's something to keep into account.
Yeah, and we're going to be having these talks again every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Going to be keeping the learning going. So today we talked about the four seasons. Now, if you missed our talks last week, don't forget they're still on Facebook. They're still on YouTube. You can go back and watch them. We're going to be having a lot of fun talks over these next few weeks. You know, I've got a few hurricane graphics that I'm really wanting to crack open, and you know, my passion is really in tropical meteorology, and I'm excited to really get into the nitty-gritty stuff about that. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about some of these tropical systems, but that may be in about a week or 2 weeks. For this week, we're going to talk about Solar 101 tomorrow.
So that's tomorrow, and it's how solar energy works. And then Thursday will be very interesting because, of course, we're in the spring season. Someone had asked about, are we going to have any tornadoes this year? And typically we see more tornadoes March through May. And so you want to pay attention to the upper level cap and what that cap is, because if a cap's in place, it's going to act as a lid and we may not see severe weather. So you definitely want to tune in for that one this Thursday.
Yeah, remember we talked about, just a moment I talked about air rising and forming clouds. There's something that happens that could stop that from occurring, and that's what we're going to talk about with that upper level cloud.
But we're not going to give too much away.
Yeah, we're not going to give too much away. We're going to stop it right there. But also Friday, Fun Time Friday, we share your photos, drawings, and weather stories. So send them in to us. We'd love to share them. We'd love to show off some of the drawings that y'all may be doing at home, some of the coloring, and just any of the fun things that y'all may be doing.
See, this is what we should do. So we talked about what our favorite seasons are. What you should do is get some crayons, some markers, whatever you have to draw. Draw us a picture of your favorite season. Draw it out and what you love to do during that season. And then have your mom and dad or whoever's taking care of you post that to social media using the hashtag Kens5Eyewitness, or they can email Bill Taylor too.
Yeah, btaylor@kens5.com.
We'd love to see those pictures.
Yeah, we'd love to see them and show them off there for Friday. So, see, you guys are awesome. Can't wait.
Susan says she has a story about Harvey. Yeah, share your story. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, we love it. We'd love to share it with everybody on Friday. So send them in to us. Again, we're going to be doing this every day at 1 p.m. We're live on Facebook and YouTube, and really excited about what we're going to be able to do these next few weeks.
Jennifer says, I want to get a weather gauge. Yeah. You know, mine's pretty old, so I think I would need to get a new one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are important to keep around. And it's going to be really interesting to see how much rain accumulates late week too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, I guess we're just wrapping up this weather classroom for today.
Yep, and remember, we're going to be live again tomorrow. We may even have a quiz coming up. Remember that magic number, 23.5 degrees.
Big number to memorize, yeah.
Yep, y'all have a great one.